You said it this morning. Maybe yesterday at the grocery store. Maybe last night before bed. A short sentence. Ordinary. Automatic. The kind of thing every parent says without thinking. And according to a growing body of neuroscience research, it is quietly reshaping the inside of your child's brain. Not in a year. Not gradually over time. Right now. In real time. Every single repetition. And the most disturbing part? You were probably taught to say it. By people who loved you. Here is what most people don't understand about language and the infant brain. When an adult hears a sentence, they process it. They filter it. They weigh it against their experience and decide how much weight to give it. A child cannot do that. Before the age of 7, the human brain operates predominantly in a low-frequency brainwave state, what neuroscientists call theta. It is the same state adults enter during deep hypnosis. In this state, the brain has no critical filter, no fact-checker, no defense mechanism. Everything that enters goes straight in. Every phrase, every label, every throwaway sentence spoken in a moment of frustration or exhaustion or love. It lands in the developing brain like code being written into a system that hasn't been installed yet. And that code doesn't just stay in childhood. It becomes the inner voice your child will carry for the rest of their life. The voice that tells them whether they are capable or broken, worthy or a burden, loved or tolerated. You are not just speaking to your child. You are writing the first draft of who they believe they are. In 2009, researchers at the University of Pittsburgh conducted a study that sent a quiet shockwave through the field of developmental psychology. They followed 967 children over a period of years, tracking the verbal exchanges between parents and children in everyday home environments. What they found surprised everyone in the field. The children who were regularly exposed to what researchers called harsh verbal discipline, which included yelling, shaming, and critical labeling, showed significant increases in behavioral problems and depressive symptoms by age 13. But here's the part that changed everything. The study controlled for warmth. Meaning, even children who felt loved, who had affectionate parents who were hugged and told, "I love you" regularly, still showed measurable psychological damage if the harsh verbal patterns were also present. Love and harm were happening at the same time. In the same home. From the same mouth. Parallel to this, researchers at Harvard's Center on the Developing Child used brain imaging technology to examine children who had experienced chronic verbal stress. The structure of their brains looked different. The corpus callosum, the bridge connecting the left and right hemispheres, showed reduced development. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, showed heightened activation patterns that persisted even in neutral, safe environments. The words had left a physical mark. Not metaphorically. Structurally. Here is the hidden layer that almost no parenting resource talks about. The phrases that damage children's brains are not the obvious ones. Everyone knows not to say, "I hate you," or "you're worthless." Those are the extreme cases. The ones in textbooks. The phrases that researchers are flagging now are the normal ones. The everyday ones. The ones you probably heard growing up. The ones that feel harmless, or even helpful. 6 of them appear so consistently across studies that developmental psychologists have begun calling them invisible stressors. Phrases that the conscious adult mind reads as discipline or guidance, but that the developing child brain processes as threat, rejection, or fundamental unworthiness. And once those phrases enter the brain's threat detection system, once they get filed under, "This is how the people who keep me alive see me," they don't just disappear when the moment passes. They become a template. A template the brain uses to interpret every future experience. That is the mechanism nobody warns you about. Not the big explosion. The quiet repetition. Let me take you into a real scenario. A boy named Marcus. 4 years old. Building a block tower in the living room. The tower falls. Marcus bursts into tears. His mother, tired from a long day, looks over and says, "Stop crying. You're fine." She means it kindly. She is trying to redirect him toward resilience. But Marcus's brain is not processing intention. It is processing information. And the information it receives is this: my internal experience is incorrect. What I feel does not match what the trusted person in my world says is real. I must be wrong about my own feelings. Researchers at UC Berkeley studying emotional invalidation in early childhood found that children who regularly receive this message, "You're fine," in the face of distress, develop what they call emotional suppression patterns. They learn not to feel less. They learn to hide what they feel. And hidden emotions in a developing nervous system don't disappear. They migrate into the body, into behavior, into adult relationships where this person will struggle to identify or express what they feel inside. That's phrase 1. Stop crying, you're fine. Now imagine Marcus again. He's 5. He spills his juice at the table. His father's immediate response: "Why do you always do this? You never pay attention." Always. Never. 2 words that a child's brain takes completely literally. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for nuance, for understanding that always might be an exaggeration, is not fully developed until age 25. To Marcus, "You always do this" is a fact about who he is. A study published in the journal Child Development showed that children who are regularly exposed to absolute labeling, always, never, every time, are significantly more likely to develop what psychologists call a fixed mindset about their own abilities. They stop trying to improve because the brain has been told that the behavior is identity. Not a mistake. A definition. That's phrase 2. Always. You never. Phrase 3 comes wrapped in comparison. Why can't you be more like your brother? Your sister would never do this. This one feels like motivation. It is not. Neuroscience research on social comparison in children shows that the brain's threat response system activates in an identical pattern whether the threat is physical danger or social rejection. To a child who is completely dependent on their caregivers for survival, being compared unfavorably to a sibling is processed as a threat to their place in the family unit. Their position, their belonging, their safety. The brain doesn't hear "be better." It hears, "You are not enough to be loved as you are." And it begins building walls around that wound that will show up decades later in how this person handles competition, comparison, and intimacy. Phrase 4 is perhaps the most common in the world. "Because I said so." Alone occasionally, fine. As a pattern, as the primary answer to a child's why, it is neurologically costly. The developing brain is a question-asking machine. It is wired for exploration, for cause and effect reasoning, for building an internal model of how the world works. When that questioning is consistently shut down, not with answers but with authority, the brain learns something specific. My curiosity is an inconvenience. My questions don't deserve answers. Asking is a problem. Researchers at the University of Michigan studying language environments in early childhood found that children raised in high-explanation households, where parents explain their reasoning even briefly, show measurably stronger executive function, better problem-solving skills, and higher academic performance by age 8 compared to children raised in "because I said so" households. Phrase 5 sounds like concern. Feels like protection. Be careful, you're going to fall. Don't do that, you'll get hurt. Come down from there. A mother's love. A father's instinct. And when repeated chronically, a neurological limit on the child's developing confidence system. Research from the University of British Columbia on risk aversion and parental language found that children who hear frequent cautionary warnings without corresponding encouragement develop what researchers called inhibited exploration patterns. They become less willing to try new things, more afraid of failure, more reliant on external reassurance before acting. The brain wires for fear of attempts, not love of discovery. Because it heard hundreds of times that the world is dangerous and you are not capable of navigating it without intervention. Phrase 6 is the one that surprises people most. You're so smart. You're so talented. You're amazing. Wait, isn't that good? Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford spent decades studying exactly this. And what she found disturbed the entire positive parenting movement. Children who are praised for being something smart, talented, special, rather than for doing something, working hard, trying again, solving a problem, develop a devastating hidden fragility. Because if you are smart, then struggle means you are no longer smart. If you are talented, then failure means the talent is gone. These children begin avoiding challenge, avoiding risk, avoiding the very experiences that produce growth, because their brain has been told that their identity is a fixed state and struggle threatens that state. The praise felt like love. The brain built a trap with it. You have heard some of these phrases. Not as a parent. As a child. Sit with that for a moment. Some of the sentences you say to yourself in your quietest moments. The voice that tells you that you're too sensitive, that you always mess things up, that you need to be careful, that you're not like the others. That voice did not come from nowhere. It was spoken to you. by someone who loved you, before you had the language to question it. You are not just watching this video as a parent. You are watching it as the child who once heard these words and built a world around them. And the extraordinary thing, the truly remarkable thing, is that understanding that mechanism is the beginning of interrupting it. In yourself. And in the child who is listening to you right now. Here is the layer almost no one reaches. The phrases themselves are not the deepest problem. The deepest problem is that language shapes internal dialogue. By around age 7, children begin to internalize the voices of their caregivers. The external phrases become internal phrases. The things you said to them become the things they say to themselves. Psychologists call this the internalized parent voice. It becomes the narrator of their inner life. When a 40-year-old lies awake at night cycling through self-criticism, "Why do I always do this? I'm never going to get it right. I should be further along by now." They are often not accessing their own voice. They are accessing yours. The voice you used when they were 4 and 5 and 6. Before they knew it wasn't the truth. Here is what I need you to hold carefully. This is not a verdict on your parenting. Every parent on earth has said some version of these phrases. Everyone. Including the researchers who study them. The brain is not destroyed by a single sentence. Or 10. Or 100 spoken in exhausted, human, imperfect moments. What shapes the brain is the dominant pattern. The question is not, have I ever said this? The question is this the voice my child hears most often? Because the brain does not remember individual sentences. It builds a model from the average. The aggregate. The thing that is most consistently true in the environment. You have more power than you realize. Not to be perfect, but to shift the pattern. One replaced phrase at a time. There is a moment, unremarkable, invisible, that happens in living rooms and kitchens and car rides all over the world every single day. A child does something wrong, or loud, or inconvenient, and the adult takes a breath. A single breath where there used to be an automatic reaction. And in that breath something extraordinary happens. The pattern pauses. The inherited phrase, the one their own parent said to them that their parents' parents said before that, sits in the throat for just 1 second. And a different sentence comes out instead. Not perfect, maybe awkward, maybe unfamiliar on the tongue, but different. That breath, that single quiet pause between stimulus and response, is the most powerful act of neuroscience available to a human parent. Because in that pause you are not just choosing your words. You are choosing the inner voice your child will carry for 70 years. You are choosing the narrator of their life. The voice that will be there in the dark. In the failures. In the moments when no one else is watching and they have to decide whether they are worth trying again. That voice starts here. In this kitchen. In this car. In this ordinary, unremarkable, world-changing moment. With you. So here is the question I want to leave with you. What was the phrase you heard most as a child? And do you hear it now, in your own head when things go wrong? That question is not comfortable. But it is the beginning of something important. In the next video we go into the science of how to actually replace these patterns. Not just in what you say to your child but in what you say to yourself. Because it turns out, the two are connected in ways that will genuinely surprise you. That video is already there. And I think you already know you need to watch it.